Coming up on Chopper's Political Podcast.
Who reads the T's and C's?
I don't know. We should do, shouldn't we? I've got a life to lead though, Samantha. Welcome back to Chopper's Political Podcast, where I bring you the best guest gossip, news and stories from our studios at GB News in the heart of Westminster. My name is Christopher Hope, and I am GB News' political editor. The conversation about ID cards keeps rumbling in the background of the corridors of Westminster as I tread them. A petition recently said this: we demand that the UK government immediately commit to not introducing a digital ID card. There are reports. The petition says that this is being looked at. Well, there's more than reports. It's now going to happen. Billions being promised to be spent according to the Office of Budget Responsibility. 3 million signatures have been signed that signed that petition. They don't want this to happen. On today's podcast, I'll be joined by a Labour MP and a Tory MP to give us the pros and cons as they see it and their constituents see it, and how they understand the issue of ID cards. So first up is Labour MP for South Derbyshire since July last year, Samantha Niblett. Samantha, thank you for joining us on the podcast. Your first time here.
In the podcast, not on GB News.
Of course, you're a big fan of GB News, but great to see you here. You spoke in the debate about ID cards. I've got the Hansard here of the debate. How many constituents have been in touch about this issue?
Oh, quite a lot. And in addition to emails that I had, both for and against, I did a Facebook post when it was announced that we were going to be doing this as a Labour government and said to people, well, look, this is what's being proposed, but I want to hear from you. What's the good about it? What's the bad about it? And what are the things that you think about it, but you're not quite certain?
And what is it then? Because I'm not even clear what the idea is. Yeah. Is it to tackle illegal migration, or is it to blow up how we receive services in the state and do it differently? What is it?
It is being shaped, and I think
so we don't know what it is yet.
I think not knowing what it is yet is probably an accurate way to describe it. There is essentially, it's about enabling everybody to have access to their data. I think if you're anyone that's had to engage with HMRC or DVLA, actually DVLA is probably one of the better ones. It's really disjointed. It's a real challenge. Left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing.
So by data, you mean public services. So you mean access to your MOT on your car, health service number, where you are on if you need a jab, if you're a flu jab, or any other service the government offers through taxation?
Well, all to be defined. So there's a consultation kicking off in next year in 2026. And if you think about it, the government wallet has not been pushed that much, but it's had a few 100,000 people sign up for it. The NHS app is a great way for me to remind me. It's a very good question, isn't it? So a way to start accessing some of the services that you've got, but it's not got everything in there yet. So I think there's been quite a lot of fear-mongering, but fear-mongering also comes off the back and lack of clarity on describing what it is.
Fear because of concern about overreach by the state. Now, the Labour government was seen as being quite authoritarian. 90-day detention brought down to 28 days or so by campaigners for those suspected of terrorism. There's a feeling that Labour always wants to push the state more into your life than they should do, and that's a concern. We saw just in the past week, we've seen removal of right to a jury with no sunset for that idea. That is ripping up an element of Magna Carta from 1215. We've seen postponement of elections. We've seen possibly bringing in facial recognition in towns and cities. There's a lack of trust about the state, which I don't think Labour understand, and that's why it's so important it's defined properly.
Yeah. And that's the fair challenge, and that's their pushback. But this isn't giving people access to data they don't already have. It's not giving government access to data they don't already have. It's about making that experience of using that data more seamless and enabling quicker services. If you're trying to do a VAT return, sometimes that can take absolutely ages. And well, every time somebody is trying to handle that at the other side at HMRC, that's headcount you're paying for. So I think if we want to streamline our civil service, we want to improve efficiencies, we want to deliver, and most importantly, want to deliver good experiences for my constituents in South Derbyshire and beyond, then why would you not want a really great, easy-to-use service?
So why not call it an ID card? I mean, I think calling it an ID card is a bit of a disaster already, because that implies papers, please, as people say, don't they? But, in other parts of in authoritarian regimes, ID cards is not a great brand.
Yeah, and perhaps
do you agree with that?
Personally, I do agree with that. It's sort of having to prove who you are, and actually, from what I've heard and the conversations I've had, certainly with Darren Jones, who's sort of leading the charge on this, is very much about accessing your data and making services better for you. Earlier this year, when we were talking about ID cards, it was polling really, really well. So messaging is absolutely key.
Well, I think people haven't been talking about it because the debate hadn't started, and now it's starting. You're slightly on the back foot with 3,000 signatures saying to sign up to it. I do blame the PM for this, and maybe you can't, but he did sell it to us, and I was there at that progressive conference as a way to tackle illegal working and stop the pull factors on small boats crossings. And then by the afternoon, Darren Jones had said, no, he didn't say no, but I'm saying no. He said it's actually also about this idea of the wallet of government services.
Yeah. I think we all know that tackling the challenge with the immigration crisis is not a silver bullet. There is not a single silver bullet. Every previous government would have done it. Apparently, Brexit was supposed to solve the solution, solve the problem too, and it's been part of the problem instead.
Yeah.
I think being able to do work checks more quickly and digitally is going to help, but it certainly wouldn't be a standalone thing that solves the challenge.
And of these constituents who got in touch with you, they worry about trust, privacy, don't they?
Yeah.
But privacy is a big issue with the data breaches.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I think sometimes people forget how flippantly they do hand over their data. If they are accessing and giving away data and personal information on Facebook when they're messaging me, and I do my own social media, there's lots of information you can get from people there. Their Tesco Club cards, their Roots Advantage cards. These are all great products that everybody engages with and doesn't give a second
We
thought
also
to.
accept cookies, whatever that means.
Yeah, well, quite.
Accept, can they use your data?
Yeah.
I mean, we do accept it.
Who reads the T's and C's?
I don't know. We should do, shouldn't we? Remember, I've got a life to lead there, Samantha. They're so detailed, I can barely see them anyway. Yeah. This will go ahead, won't it? I mean, it does seem it's not dead in the water, this idea.
Well, there was a Westminster Hall debate this week, which was in response to the petition, which was very heavily attended. I spoke in it myself. And I think what was really apparent in the minister's response, Josh Simons, was we're going to do a consultation. This is the aspiration. This is where we want to get to. But we absolutely want to take people on the journey with us. And I hope if we are, in principle, I think it's a great idea. I had a lady the other day comment on a Facebook post saying, I'm 77 years old, I've never needed this, we don't need it now. And my argument was, well, at some point in your life, we also didn't have the internet, yet here you are messaging your MP directly and getting a reply. So sometimes the things that we fear can become the things that we take for granted as easy to use. It's something we're grateful for.
It's just change.
Yeah.
But of course, your government did promise bringing change, and change can be alarming. But for older people, not for the you emailed you, there's 3 million people who aren't on the internet.
Yes.
They will have to have a card.
Yeah, well, it's not a physical card.
Well, they will need one, or else they can't do what you're saying.
Well, and here's the other thing about it. So this is not just a standalone thing that we're doing. I sit on the Science, Innovation and Technology Select Committee, and this week...
Because your background is in tech, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And actually, despite the fact I'm a tech advocate, what I am first and foremost is a backer of people. So you will frequently see me speaking up against tech companies that I think are treating people appallingly, that have got biases in their algorithms, which are resulting in poor outcomes for people. But this week we had a select committee meeting where we were talking about infrastructure, whether it's access to broadband or it's access to mobile connectivity. And I think there was a clear message that we should be pushing and be more ambitious about how many people can get online and also how many people can afford.
It can improve lives. I was checking the MOT of the car the other day, and it is very quickly.
Yeah.
Enter the reg. It's all there. It comes up. Yeah. I mean, it is surprisingly good.
Yeah, but to your point, it's a trust issue, and I think we have to take people on the journey with us.
Okay. Another problem you raise, you represent a rural constituency, of course, formerly a Conservative seat represented by the whip Heather Wheeler, but now, of course, you're the Labour MP for South Derbyshire. It's rural. There are farmers there. You've joined a group called the Labour Rural Research Group. Now, I remember the European Research Group of Tory MPs. They were a pain for the last Tory governments, plural. There are 40 of you in it. Will you be a pain for Labour government over what's called the family farms tax?
We certainly don't want to be a pain. We have been lobbying for the last 13 months to try and get some reversals to some of the changes to inheritance tax.
To mitigate those changes, yeah.
To mitigate the changes and just to ask government to think slightly differently about how they carve it up. Nobody has an issue with greedy landowners that are looking to avoid paying inheritance tax.
Who aren't farmers?
That's
the point.
Yeah,
I think, isn't it? Aren't farmers, or already aren't farmers.
So I think I think that the unintended consequences of some of the proposed changes to inheritance tax are negatively impacting people that essentially they already don't make a lot of money. Like when they talk about making £15,000-20,000 profit, it's not profit because they've not paid themselves. It is a way of life. It's not just a business. There is a sense of responsibility that weighs heavy on any son or daughter of farmers that are getting older. There are rules around putting things into trust because it means that then the original generation that have been farming can't continue to live in the home on the farm.
What was that issue of the trust if you've given the asset away?
Well, exactly. So I don't think it's quite as straightforward as some people lead to believe. And I have had constituents say, well, it's the right thing to do, it's fair. And it's quite an odd thing to be slightly at odds with your own government. But I've had meetings with farmers. I have invited farmers in to Westminster. And I think the absolute world of so many of the farmers that I have met. And I promised I would fight for them, and I am.
I think the Treasury feels it's a tax planning issue. They say if we give you enough notice, and they feel they've given it from November last year to 2026 when it comes in, that means you can plan and put the assets into a trust or pass them on. But as you say, you can't live in the farmhouse anymore, so you have to give up farming. And
it does work on the assumption that you live longer than 7 years, and you know it's just
yes. And if you're near the end, or we never know when we're going to die. But I mean, yeah, that's the point. What needs to happen here? One idea I looked at the beginning of this when it emerged was some proof that you're a trading farm. If you can have a kind of a balance sheet proof that you are trading as a farmer, you can be exempt from it. Is that an idea you're looking at?
There are several ideas being proposed. There was the Syntax report that had a bit of pushback from Treasury already because it would. They were looking at a different way of taxing. It was essentially bring in more revenue, but do it in a slightly different way. Now, I am not a Treasury expert, so I'm not even going to pretend I can give you all the detail of it. But it had pushback. I know the NFU were supportive of it, and I and my colleagues continue to work closely with the NFU.
Might you get somewhere? Nothing in the budget, of course.
There was
in April 2026.
Well, no, there was a concession, and we were grateful for the concession in the budget where it could pass from spouse to spouse, and historically as well. So your limit goes up to 3 million, but it's not quite enough. I think it would benefit about 30% of those impacted.
And of course, we rely on them in a large case for our food security.
Well, absolutely, and as you know, and I'm sorry I don't even recall all the big numbers because I'm so focused on my own farmers in my constituency, and so many of them live hand to mouth. We've got 6 days worth of food security in this country, and as we see
20 days in the old days, I think, from memory.
Well,
longer than 6 days.
All I know is Brexit has made things worse for farmers. Trade is much harder for them, and with tensions rising across the world, I think we need to be protecting our farmers.
So just finally on this, will the government change it, mitigate it, bring in the Syntax, as you said, whatever it might be?
We won't stop trying to push for change.
Letters going into the Chancellor? Meetings?
There's been lots of requests for.
She's smiling. Listeners, you can't see.
I don't know hopeful, but just you can rest assured that there are plenty of us still trying our very best.
And just on that, Labour do get the rural vote, don't they? There's always been historically a feeling that Labour have a blind spot on rural issues. We go back to the fox hunting with dogs. That became an attack on all rural pursuits back in the early part of this century. There's a feeling that Labour's a metropolitan party, but is that not right?
Well, it's not entirely fair because that's sort of suggesting that lifting the 2-child cap wouldn't benefit plenty of my farmers that are on universal credit. It's assuming that they don't access NHS services as we're trying to improve the NHS. It's assuming they don't send their children to schools and need a breakfast club for their. There's still people that benefit from the very much a people first government. So that sort of doesn't argument doesn't really work.
But the mindset though is also
Although interestingly, way before the election, when I'd just become candidate, I met with a couple of local farmers in a pub garden, and they said, we always do better under a Labour government, but we still vote Tory. And I just thought, gosh, I need to convince you.
Perhaps a vote in South Derbyshire. Yeah. Before we finish this interview, you are helping one of your constituents, Andrew Horth, who released the following song called Merry Christmas, brackets, Make Amends, close brackets. Let's have a look and a listen.
Toast old friends, those you hold dear, make
What's the story behind that video, Samantha?
So back in September, Andrew came across to see me to introduce himself at Melbourne Festival of Arts and Architecture and told me about this event he'd got on in December where he'd be doing some Christmas songs. And then I thought, great, okay, if I can come, I will. And then in November, by pure chance on Facebook, I saw this incredible song that was by him. And I played it. And within a couple of parts, I felt like I'd known it forever. I felt like I was in a Christmas movie. And I can never only listen to it once. It's such a catchy earworm. But it's about the fact that every Christmas we'll catch up with people, but then we promise to see each other and then we don't. And another year passes. And so I contacted him and I said, this song is brilliant. How do you fancy trying to get a Christmas #1? But how do you fancy doing it to raise awareness for men's mental health? Because we have pretty recently lost a pillar of the community in South Derbyshire, Mikey Heel, who did a huge amount for other people, particularly those with special educational needs. And it hit the community hard. I must confess I had a cry when I heard the news. And I just felt so hopeless as we're trying as a Labour government to improve the NHS and as having launched the first ever men's health strategy, which mental health plays a huge part in. I just thought, whilst we wait for those things to kick in, what can I do that's tangible in my local community? And this felt like a really good thing to do.
Where is it in the charts now?
Well, it's not even, we've literally pulled a video together. A week ago, the video was ready. Friday is the date when streams and downloads matter. And we've got a week. So I'm trying to give it as much coverage as possible. So thank you so much for mentioning it in this
And how
podcast.
people go on to Spotify search?
If they look for Horth World, Merry Christmas, Make Amends, they'll find it on any of their platforms of choice.
Mental health is so important, though, isn't it? I mean, it's vital and it's overlooked, I think, in lots of the policy from the government and elsewhere.
Absolutely. And suicide is the biggest killer of men under 50. 14 men a day die by suicides. And it's just awful. And I love that we talk about it more, but actually what we need to do is make it that men, no matter how they seek help, feel comfortable to do so, whether it's in places where men come together to chat, like in Man Club, which was created in Melbourne, or whether it's Tough to Talk, which is about going to gyms and being able to, physically exert your anxiety and feel better about yourself.
Work out the stress that way. Well, Samantha and Niblett, it's been great to see you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us. Come on again. Doesn't mean too bad, has it?
No, it's great.
Happy Christmas.
Same to you.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living. And maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance. And that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
My next guest is the Tory MP for East Hampshire and a former security minister in Boris Johnson's government, Damian Hinds. Damian, welcome to Choppers.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. It is my first time on the podcast.
Great to have you here. We are debating and looking at the issue of digital ID. Have you had a lot of your constituents worry about this?
Yeah.
Email
So
what do they say?
I've had quite a lot of email. I've also set up my own survey trying to ask, and of course, there was also this big e-petition to Parliament, and there were thousands of signatures from my constituency. And the sorts of things that people are worried about, I mean, are the same sorts of things people worried about last time a Labour government came up with this, I mean, not exactly this idea, but a pretty similar idea. Yeah. It just doesn't really feel like it's
British?
Yeah,
You
it's
mean
just,
us mean British?
Yeah, I do mean British.
Well, what is it?
It just jars with our sort of sense, and they'll say, "Oh, it works fine in some other country." Yeah, fine, but that's another country. It's not this country, and we are who we are.
Now, you've been around a bit like I have. How old are you again?
I'm 56. Just turned.
I'm 54, 2 years younger. But
Don't show off.
we think back. Labour tried this, didn't they, in the noughties?
Yes.
And it didn't get anywhere. Why was that?
Well, I mean, actually, funny enough, a lot of the circumstances were pretty similar to now. The previous year, in 2002, there had been 103,000 or 104,000 asylum claims, almost identical to last year. This was seized upon by some Labour ministers as being a way to deal with illegal immigration. Then they started to do all sorts of other things.
Because the pull factor.
Because the pull factor,
Right to work,
exactly, right, exactly. And then they started talking about all sorts of other things. And then, of course, it turned out that not everybody thought the same thing, even in the government. Even different ministers had different views. And then it turned out it was going to cost a lot more than everybody thought. And then it turned out they didn't really have a plan at all. And so they sort of did it a bit.
Yeah.
They did, I think, 15,000 cards altogether. I mean, out of a population the size of this country.
I've got a sample card.
You got a card. He's got a card. Has he got it on him?
No,
He hasn't got it on him. He hasn't got it on him. He doesn't carry it.
It was
As a matter of principle.
It was by simple a sample.
Okay.
But it was identical to, if you imagine, the plastic driving licenses.
Right. Yeah.
With a pink with a kind of coat of arms imprinted on it.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so they issued,
was an actual card.
They issued a few of them, and then they ditched that idea, but they kept this thing, the database, and that's what's now been until we got rid of it when there's a change of government in 2010.
I remember that.
But
one of the first things Theresa May
yeah,
did
absolutely.
as secretary. For
yeah,
memory.
but of course the idea never went away, and it's the database. Actually, it's not so much the card. The card is like a physical manifestation. It is a bit like the papers, please. That's what it looks and feels like. But actually, it's the database. It's all that information that you're storing on everybody, and being able to. The key thing is being able to link up all this information that the state kind of knows about you, which you might be perfectly happy for one, but for like in the medical world, we know something about you might be happy. Might be necessary, obviously, for people in the DVLA know something else about you, and other people know something else. But you don't want it all to be kind of linked together.
Why should we be worried about that? Unless you've got something to hide.
Oh, don't start! Oh, don't! I don't feel. Don't even try it. Nothing to hide. Nothing to hide. Nothing to fit. You do have something to hide. Everyone's got things to hide. No, it doesn't mean you've done something wrong. But you don't want everybody to know everything about you, and why should they?
No.
And actually, lots of people have very specific reasons to want to be kind of like if you're fleeing domestic violence, or
of course.
you just want to move on in your life from something.
Yes.
There's all sorts of reasons, but just in general, people don't need to know everything about me or you.
The risk of the data leak with
don't
all your
even.
lives
Yeah.
in one place, in the way you're describing, it's quite satisfying that it's in different places, and one leak can just completely gives someone everything about you.
Yeah, I'll tell you when I think people of about our age, when we really, really realised that. And it didn't actually take a cyber hack. It didn't take a massive computer. Do you remember the 2 discs?
Yeah.
I call them the 2 slippery discs, 2 CD-ROMs.
I know.
To the best of my knowledge,
Everyone's NI number.
25 million records.
NI numbers.
Not just NI numbers, it included bank details, I believe.
Did it?
For parents. This was because it was the child benefit.
That was the
database.
first big data leak. No one could believe all that information to be on 2 CDs.
Exactly. To the best of my knowledge, that has never been found. Now, and to be fair, a lot of processes changed after that. Now all data's encrypted, and you can't just take the 2 CD-ROMs out of the office. But I think it really brought home to everybody how dangerous this could be, and in the hands of fraudsters. And we know that fraud is the biggest single type of crime, let alone hostile foreign states.
So what happened to that database? You destroyed it as a Tory government. That means it doesn't exist anymore.
Well, there was.
Or is it still there?
I couldn't tell you exactly what stage of development. No.
Is that the foundational document for the new idea?
No,
that's gone.
I don't think so. I mean, and the technology would have changed quite a lot by now.
Right,
since then as well. So, I mean, to the best of my knowledge, there isn't. I mean, you've always been pretty wrong, but I don't think. I only lying around
the
on.
that exist.
You're
part of it.
Someone's C drive is still the remnants. I don't think so. I think this would be a new.
But in a sense, history is repeating itself, isn't it? You've got this Labour government going through all the same moves you described there. I was there when Tony Blair, Keir Starmer, if you're a listener, Keir Starmer announced the reason for doing it. saying it was a way of tackling the pull factor on small boats. By the afternoon, at the same progressive conference over the road at the Methodist Central Hall, we had Darren Jones saying, no, we're ripping up the state. It's going to be a one-stop shop for everything. And I came back to GB News. I went straight on air and said, something's happening here to Martin Daubney, the presenter, because they're saying, well, this is for this and it's for this. What's it for, and how do you get trust behind it if you're changing the reason for doing it?
Before it's even been created, like on day one, and that's true. And there have been lots of other things to talk about as well, about accessing childcare, for example, and all manner of things. At the heart of it is this question of, I mean, you could have a role for better identity systems in in fighting against illegal working, but they've said, to guard against the papers please thing, there won't be a penalty for not carrying the card, and there won't be like a stop and search.
No.
So if you can't bust into a workplace and say, okay, let's see everyone's ID. I fail to see how it stops the illegal work. Because if you're an employee, you already have to prove the identity of the person and their right to work.
I was with one of the ministers behind the plans last night. I think they're going to try and look at maybe not calling it an ID card.
I'm sure they are.
Like a wallet or something. They want to...
e-wallet probably.
Or a number, or even on the HMRC, there's a long number you enter, don't you, with the various passwords. And maybe that's what you do. I don't know. I mean...
Maybe, but at the end of the day, I don't think there will be an actual... plastic card. There's going to be something. So people who don't have a phone.
There's 3 million who are not
and this, by the way, is yet another aspect to this. It's one more thing. Effectively, you will need a smartphone for. Yes, they say there'll be alternatives, but in reality, it'll be a phone-based thing. They're also saying, well, they're consulting about. They haven't decided this, but consulting about it being available to children, like as young as 13, in a different part of the forest. We are like trying to have kids spend less time on their phones and on social media. And
just on that pensioner point, by the way, it's people with memory of the war.
No, I know.
Being asked that it does Damian Hinds.
I know. No, quite right. It's where we started this conversation, isn't it? It doesn't feel British.
It doesn't feel British, but we yet to have the argument, and they're going to start their consultation in January. Yeah. Do you worry about this? I mean, you're a security minister. I mean, we should trust the state, shouldn't we? You were part of it. You were one of the checks and balances.
We should trust the state and be sceptical, and be sceptical about it. And that's part of what parliamentarians are there for, is to kind of express that scepticism and exert some control, and as you rightly say, checks and balances on behalf of the
question here is this proportionate? Is the question.
Yeah, it is.
So the question I asked the Labour MP when it came out, I said, why on earth should we all have to carry digital ID cards because you can't stop the boats?
Yeah, and that's a question that came up in different forms a bunch of times when we debated this in Parliament.
Government.
And I say it's not proportionate. And by the way, we haven't even talked about the cost yet. The OBR estimated
1.5 billion,
more than that.
Over 3 years. That's a 3-year number, by the way. So it's a recurring number.
But that's just their guess, right? I mean, they don't know. They had to put something in the numbers, I think, in the absence of being told anything by the government. Experience of these kinds of big IT projects is the estimate never goes down.
How often did it come back to you, this idea in Home Office? This idea came out from a Tony Blair think tank report back in July, which raised it then.
We weren't talking about ID cards, no.
It's called a brick card then, but they've dropped the brick card because Northern Ireland, or some people in Northern Ireland didn't like that, but that's gone away now. That was gone away. But were the officials constantly pushing it towards you? You were saying we're not doing this.
No.
Why weren't they?
To be fair, I mean, you can construct a security argument. I mean, this is why you have security states. You can construct an argument that says, the more you know about everybody and the more you know exactly where they are and all the rest of it, the better for national security. That is an argument you can construct, but it's not the way we run our country.
No,
we are free men and women, and we have the right to go about our everyday business, quiet enjoyment. If we're not, harming other people, we feel these freedoms, the sense of them, really, really, really acutely. And so you're always trying to balance it. And that's the truth of national security. You have to balance these things. And you have to, with national security, the question is, what is it that we're trying to protect? We're trying to protect this country, this nationality, this society, this feeling of being who we are.
And we have trusted our authorities enough not to write anything down. We have Magna Carta in 1215, but nothing else is really codified or written down. We have a vague idea of freedoms.
No.
And we have a vague idea of what it means to be British, don't we? I think.
We do. So the unwritten constitution is the clap. We haven't got a constitution. Yes, we have got a constitution, but it's not rigid like other countries' constitutions. You don't have to go through crazy kind of. I shouldn't say crazy. I mean, these are perfectly good systems, but they're different systems.
Got a Spanish producer enjoying this one.
I was just noting that as I sort of slightly retracted or moderated what I was going to say.
She's born in northwest of England.
I just prefer our system. I think but it only works to have our system if you have been around if it's been in place for a very long time and has developed organically. And of course it does. Of course, and that we're here today to talk about digital ID, not about jury trials, say, or willfully cancelling or postponing elections. But these are all things which I think are risky to do in that context.
Let's raise last week quickly. Monday, they said that David Lammy announced they're going to try and, they are suspending the right to jury trial forever. And that's 1215, Article 9 maybe in Magna Carta. I'm not sure that's right, but certainly that's right. They're then looking at bringing facial recognition on cameras again, issue of civil liberties, and then they postpone 4 mayoral elections in places like East Anglia, where you're from Hampshire and elsewhere, till 2028. Are Labour? Do they have an inclination towards authoritarianism?
Well, I'm going to be careful how I throw phrases and words about, but I will say,
by which I mean the state knows best.
Yeah, I mean that I think is, I'm afraid, in the core thinking of the Labour Party.
That's what I meant by that.
When it comes to but it comes to the election question, for example, I just don't think is on. You just can't say, you're going to elect people, whether MPs or councillors or whoever they are. It's an election, you're going to let people say 4 years, and then come back to actually what we really meant was it's going to be 5 or 6. They're going to stay over. You just can't do that.
And it's only mayoralty. It's not loads of people.
Well, that was the thing they did last year. And in fact, last year, because it was still very early in the project. Well, I was thinking early in the new government.
Got away with it.
A lot of stuff they kind of got away with,
but not this time.
The mayoralty, I mean, again, it's just.
He's a champion of local.
So it doesn't. The things don't exist yet, so you can sort of make that argument. But on the other hand, when you've announced that a democratic event is going to happen,
yes,
and candidates are in place, people have been campaigning, money has been spent. Most of these things. I know people think of politicians and political parties as these big sort of corporate things, but it's mostly done by volunteers, going out on the Saturday morning and sticking bits of paper through people's letterboxes and all the rest of it.
And let's not forget, Labour took 2 years from the referendum in Scotland to have a Scottish Parliament and one in Wales to having the elections.
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
And then in a Parliament was set up.
Very good reminder.
And it sat on the high school on Carlton Hill in Edinburgh. Yep. I mean, you don't need to have a building to have the people in place. You don't need to have an office for a mayor. You can put them in a portico, but you're elected. Yeah. And that's what I think they're missing. They're trying to because they say it's all about their defence. Last week was all about having a kind of infrastructure around. Forget all that. Let's get the guy elected or woman elected, whoever it is.
I mean, there's also another question, which is just, if it's now looking like it's going to take another couple of years to get everything in place, why wasn't that obvious a year and a half ago?
Well, it should have been. There's a feeling of just drift, and it's frustrating.
No kidding.
Just while I've got you, by the way, you're experienced Conservative politician. Been a good few months for your leader, hasn't it? I mean, not a hard question for you to answer that one.
That is not a hard question for me to answer.
As well.
I think Kemi's doing a great job. I think she's been doing a great job throughout. In fact, I do think it's an incredibly...
She's underwater.
I do.
24 points when she took over. Now she's 18 points.
I do.
How is that doing?
Look, it's a hard job. It's a really hard
She's
job.
failing.
Hang on. It's a really hard job. Being the leader of the opposition at any time is a hard job. Yeah. Being leader of opposition when you've gone from where we were to where we came into is a really hard job. Really, really hard job. And I think she's led us really well. I think she has really not allowed herself to be pulled in different directions. She's conscious. She's very, very clear in her mind, and rightly so. And she's stuck to that, and she's led us, I think, really well. And is now. It was always going to take time for us to get more of a hearing. People were very cross with us. We are all Conservative MPs are all very conscious of that, and it was always going to take time for us to get a hearing. But I think now is that time, and I think people are starting to hear from us more readily.
Enjoying it. We had her
Yeah.
Christmas drinks with her this week. I've never seen her more
Yeah, I
buoyant.
think
She
she
wasn't
is.
prickly.
I think
she
she
was,
is.
and she can be prickly, and she can be a bit impatient with people. It feels that way when you're
Well,
talking to her. No offense.
A
no
lot
offense.
of good driven people are.
Yeah.
I think,
I'm not
campaign basis,
I'm not holding against her. I'm saying what it's like to be with her, but she's relaxed into it. I think she feels for your party there's now a choice, and the choice happened at the budget. Labour chose to spend more money on benefits than you'd have spent.
Yep.
And you've got differentiation also with other parties too, reform notably.
Yep.
And it gives you a way in. This idea of workers, not shirkers, I think is where
Yeah, it's not
that will define next year. I
Yeah, it's not the only thing, but
it's
to
a
make
big
this
thing
to
to
make
me.
this budget choice, spending 26 billion pounds more in tax at a time where people are already feeling that squeeze, and for businesses,
It's a big deal.
you know, we're talking about our pubs, our shops, already, not taking on people. You see the unemployment numbers going up. To make that choice at that time is just completely wrong, and it is absolutely not the choice we would have made.
It shows a weakness of the government. They have to almost appeal to the MP base and the
Yep.
wider membership base, and not look wider into the
No,
country
indeed.
with the
Yeah.
scale of their majority. But you are, I mean, for me, she staunches the bleeding, but you're still behind where you
We've
were
got a lot
when
of
she
work.
became leader. I mean,
We've got a
I'm
lot
not sure
of work.
outside of this
We have a
studio,
lot of work to do.
The
We have a
world
lot of
has
work
noticed.
to do. And like, there is nobody in the Parliamentary Conservative Party who doesn't realise
that.
that we've got a lot of work
You
to
can
do
overturn it.
to regain people's trust.
Overturn that huge 160 or so majority
we- well,
in one
well,
term. That will be absolutely.
It would be a
gobsmacking
first. It would be a first. I'm not.
First with knobs on,
I'm
Damian
not.
Hinds.
I'm not underestimating that at all. But the point is, we need to make sure that what we have to put to the British public come the election is a compelling proposition for a centre-right party and government that's fiscally responsible, where people's priorities are our priorities, and all we care about
space opened up.
is public service, and we will do that day after day, week after week, month after month.
And Damian Hinds, one last question. We were told the reason why we have ID cards is to help deal with the migrant crisis. Will it stop a single person crossing the channel to come here? The fact you may have to produce a form of digital ID.
I doubt it very much. I mean, the way that, the black economy, the informal economy, the illegal work, whatever you want to call it, the way it works. So, for example, if you're if you're legitimately, you sign up to deliver takeaway food, and then you subcontract your job to someone here illegally for cash, what role does an ID card
Because the
play?
person
It's just like
they're not even presenting any right to work, are they? They're just-
and they have to prove anyway today. Nominally, supposedly, you have to prove your right to work and your identity to take a legitimate job.
So, with all your experience in government, security minister, other jobs in government, it's not going to stop the boats, or at least even slow the boats.
This is not the way to stop the boats. You need a proper deterrent.
And it's Friday. What do you want for Christmas?
But apart from, I love that slogan on the Itsu around the corner. Have you seen that?
What's that?
All I want for Christmas.
Is it Sue?
Itsu.
It's
But I don't actually particularly want Itsu for Christmas. I just happen to notice that anyway.
Jumper. What do you want?
I do it at our age. This is the problem.
Pants.
I don't want any more socks. I only really wear kind of plain black. So it's really dull.
I'm wearing Christmas
What? I quite fancy a toasted sandwich maker this Christmas.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you? I'll tell Mrs. Hinds. Thank you, Damian Hinds, for joining us on Chop of Difficult Podcast. Thank you earlier to Samantha Niblett. It's been a great show as ever. Thank you to wherever you are listening to this for tuning in. It's been great fun to have your company. I tweet at Christopher Hope on X. What's your Twitter handle? Do you bother with that?
Damian Hinds.
Damian Hinds. So
Yeah.
Tweet
It's
it.
not my favourite place in the whole world, but I am there.
Just send me messages with the only nice ones. Email me if you want, chopper@gbnews.uk. If you enjoyed this podcast as much as Damian Hinds has, please leave a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and everywhere else to help others find it. Thanks to the great team of GB News colleagues behind the podcast. Father Christmas himself, Mick Booker, Mother Christmas, Jeff Marsh, and of course the elves, Rebecca Nunes and George McMillan, who make it all happen. Thank you again for listening. If you want more Chopper in your life, and they do,
As long as you've got your elf.
catch me.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, health and safety. Catch me during the week on GB News with our latest political stories, and get our best reporting on our website, gbnews.com. But until next time, cheerio! Ho, 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 ho.
Oh, God help us all.